So I'll just kind of give you my thought process. I like to organize my thoughts a little bit, and I want to build pillars of wealth. And the reason I want to build pillars of wealth is I want to experience 1% things. So what I mean by that is, the wealthiest people in the world are the 1%. And I want to experience things that those people can experience. I want to do things that those people are able to do that 99% of people don't get to do. And that's a really good goal, I think. And that's not me trying to be a douche or anything like that. It's just
douche.
Yeah, I just really want that. I want to be able to do that and have the opportunity to do that, and I want freedom.
All of the food we eat and much of the clothing we wear comes from plants and animals that are raised on farms. Farms are different in type, in size, and even in name.
Welcome to Barn Talk, pre-harvest edition. What happens at the barn stays in the barn until now. And what happens after we let it all out, we're not responsible for it. So take it with caution. Today is a Q&A episode. We had some folks drop some questions. We asked it on our Barn Talk YouTube, our This Will Do Farm YouTube, and our This Will Do Farm Instagram. So people drop questions, and Dad and I are going to answer 3 questions each. Might have some bonus questions thrown in there. We don't know. If we got time, we'll do them. All we ask from you guys, if you get any value from the show, is to share it out. That's the ticket to admission to watch or listen to the show. We don't run ads on the show. If you get value from us, all we ask is you give us value in return by sharing the show. So without further ado, I'm here with my host with the most.
Torque. I feel like I need to stretch that name out. It's kind of anticlimactic.
Torque and more.
Yeah, Torque and more. We will run ads at some point because we're greedy. So we're just money grubbing capitalists here. So guaranteed we're going to run ads. We're going to run it right up to the point that you're all like, God, if I see one more ad, I'm clicking out of this, and then we'll back it off 2 notches. But we're not there yet. Anyway, before I get started, I'll give a shout out. One of my very best childhood friends just had a birthday. Matt, if you're listening, kudos to you for waking up and to making it. I think that he's probably 51 because he was a little older than me. So we'll have to do another episode where we talk about some of our good childhood stories growing up. But anyway, Matt was a great instigator. So he was one of those guys that he didn't necessarily want to do the crazy thing, but he was more than happy to sit there and say phrases like, "You don't have a hair on your ass to do fill in the blank," or "You pussy, just do it." Although I shouldn't say that. I won't bag on him too hard because he did his fair share, and he was equally weak to the amount of peer pressure that we threw on everybody. But
yeah,
he was a good instigator. So
I have a few friends like that.
Yeah, you got to have them.
You know who we are.
Yeah,
it makes the trips or whatever you're doing a little bit better because you don't with the instigators. If you're boozing a little bit and you're just having fun and everyone's just feeling a little loose,
yeah,
you don't really notice those instigating comments.
Yeah,
they just suddenly come into your head all of a sudden. You're like, how did that get in my head? But yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Well, you've talked about that because when you have run footage of your trips,
yeah,
when you're watching the footage, you're like, yeah, them bastards,
yeah,
they are the instigators.
Yeah. So yeah, my buddies and I go on a annual Brozark trip. We go down to the Ozarks, and I usually shoot some footage down there for just the memories, and sometimes we make a video. Most of the time we make like a recap video of our trip that's supposed to be badass and fun or whatever. So I have some footage from this last time, and yeah, I have some friends that they're twins actually, so that it's double trouble, and they are pretty good at instigating stuff without you really noticing it. And then you look at the footage and you're like, that's probably why we did some of the dumb stuff that we did, because
there's always got to be somebody there to prod you along, be like, yeah.
But it was the most fun trip I've had so far in my life. It was awesome. Just so that kudos to them.
One of the funnest and most interesting trips that I ever took in my young life was when we went to the state basketball tournament. when our local team actually won state, only we weren't there. We never actually made it to the game, which is a very long story for another episode, but it was a good time. It was a good time. And Matt, you might have had a small role in why we never made it to the game. So anyway, while I think about it, another guy that had a birthday this week is Steve. And Steve is a guy that I used to work with back in my construction days, and he coined the phrase, the illusion of progress. And I've used that many times in my life. So when we worked on a crew, and we did everything on these hog buildings. We did everything minus we didn't pour the foundations, but we framed them, wired them, put the gates in, did the water, wired everything. We did it all. And when we would go to the job site, instead of having everybody work on one thing, Steve would have somebody running clicks, somebody like trying to stud the end wall to put fans in, somebody working on putting curtain hooks up, basically somebody doing everything and nothing really got done. And I was like, Steve, why do we do it this way? Why don't we just, concentrate on one thing? And then one day I figured it out because the owner of the company, he would call, and when he would call, Steve would always give a glowing progress report. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, we got the curtains going up. I mean, the fans are almost in. We're about ready to hang plumbing. I mean, we got it going on," which was
Partially true.
Sort of true, sort of true, but not really. And so we coined the phrase "the illusion of progress" because, man, on the phone it sounded fantastic. Now, in reality, it was never that good. But anyway, so happy birthday to you, Steve-O. You're still getting it done, and I hope you had a good day. So I'll give you the market update, and this is the close. We're a little late, so we're actually getting the close on Friday. And corn, $6.22 at Eddyville. So Cargill and Eddyville, they must have went and tapped on a bin and been like, "Damn, we don't have as much corn as we thought we do." Because in fact, I want to say I was in Des Moines at the Iowa Corn Growers Grassroots thing this week, and I think one day they might have had I want to say they had a 634. It could have been higher than that, but anyway, they really needed corn. So that 622 bid, I think, is good to the 10th, something like that. And then 560 is the best local bid around that I've seen. Soybeans, $12.63 at Burlington, $13 at Quincy if you want to go across the river. Hogs, $89 on the nearby contract. And I'll just say, I kind of say the same thing every week that, weights are down and slaughter's down. But for last week, the slaughter for the U.S. was 2.4 million pigs, and that's down from a year ago, which was 2.76. And so there's fewer pigs around, and the weights are getting lighter. So 276 versus 279 a year ago. And because I was at the corn growers grassroots thing in Des Moines, there was a lot of talk about exports and what we can expect and, what the demand for corn is. So in China, if you're feeding pigs in China, and I mean, any data that you get out of China is somewhat
skewed.
Yeah, because you don't really know. They're not real clear and transparent over there for some reason. But anyway, what I've heard is that basically to buy corn to feed pigs over there, you're paying about $6.79 a bushel American to feed pigs. And the largest producers over there, which I think they call them dragon heads, these guys that they own all the sows, and then they probably own the feed mill, and they're having people feed these pigs out. They're losing between $400 and $500 million a week. So they think there's actually a lot of liquidation over there, that bodes really well for our export market on pigs, but it may not bode well for our export market on corn. So we'll just have to wait and see. And all of that information is worth exactly what you paid for it, because it could be wrong. But I got it from the best source that I could that I could find. Cattle, 124. I might quit giving the cattle price because it just never changes. I mean, it's the same. 122, 124. It's high. Bitcoin, $50,300 as of about an hour ago.
Finally, he's kind of maybe potentially getting over the hump.
Yeah.
50 seems to be the hump a little bit.
There's a lot of ammunition. People think that from here to the end of the year that it's just going to go crazy. A lot of $100,000 price estimates, and a lot of charts thrown out there, stock to flow, the amount that's actually available on the exchanges, the amount that's being held, that people that don't ever let go of it. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But and so today would be, what would be today? Today would be the 4th. I don't know if it's the 3rd or 4th. It doesn't matter. September 7th, which is Tuesday.
It's the 4th. Yep.
Yeah. September 7th, which is Tuesday, is the day that El Salvador makes the change and goes on the Bitcoin standard.
I saw that they're having protests in the streets about that whole deal.
I'm sure.
We'll just have to see. It can either be a complete disaster or it will be a really good thing, and it might evolutionize how we do things.
If you
it's the real first example.
If you invest 3 Bitcoin in the exchange in El Salvador, they'll give you citizenship, which is a lot more Bitcoin than what I have.
I really need that to my resume.
So if you're thinking about getting dual citizenship, that's the price of admission.
You just need $150,000.
Pretty much.
Right now, anyway.
Ethereum is very close to an all-time high, $3,900, and in fact, I think that is a high. It might have gotten to 4,000, but right around there. So it's high. Tesla 734. There's all kinds of drama about they backed off Cybertruck. It's not going to be here. I think I'm going to have to buy a truck because I was really waiting for the Cybertruck, and now it looks like it would be a minimum of about midsummer 2023. So
Torque's going to have to...
I'm just going to have to go buy something. I don't know what I want, but I'm going to have to get something.
Yeah, you're going to have to go test drive something.
I had to haul some plywood the other day in the back end of the Tahoe because Sawyer was gone, and I got pretty frustrated about that. So I think I'm going to have to break down and buy a truck. Anyway, that is the long and short of the market report. Longer than usual.
Hey, we all need some updating of the markets. Not everybody checks the markets. Hell, I don't really check the markets. I check the crypto market and my stocks, but I don't really check commodities all too much. So.
Well, corn market, get ready because here in a few days, I don't know how long it'll be. Around here, I still think we're probably, I would think around the 22nd will be when you'll see a lot of people roll. And as soon as the first combine rolls, the cash bids will all drop into the crapper. But everybody's hedging their bet what that's going to take. So all the hog guys, they're checking the bins, trying to decide whether they can make it till they get all that harvest corn, and so their bid reflects that. And as soon as they get the first load of new crop corn,
taking that down,
that basis will get pretty wide.
All right. Well, I think we're going to get into the questions. Do you want to start by asking me?
Yeah,
my first question.
I will. I'll give you a good question. And this is a good question because a lot of people wonder why in the world you would ever want to have stayed here and worked with your dad.
I ask myself that sometimes too.
What made you get into entrepreneurship, and what made you decide to come back to the farm full time? And do you have any advice for somebody doing the same?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's going to be kind of an in-depth question. I'm just going to walk you through kind of my thought process. So, as you guys know, I really wasn't about college, really wasn't about school. So I figured that if I were to go to college, I was just going to get a bullshit degree probably and just cheat my way through, or have somebody do my, I wasn't going to put in the effort because I didn't like school, and I was just going to probably party, and I wasn't going to get much out of it. So I decided that's probably not the best thing for my future to do. For me personally, I don't bag on anybody that does go to college. It's really personal preference.
Thank you for that, because I'm glad that I didn't sign for any student loans or help you in any way.
Yeah, because I would have really just pretty much pissed away some money, and I don't really feel good about that. So I came back and farmed full time because really it was either that or kind of go to trade school or whatever. And there's a lot of legacy here, like I've talked about. my biggest goal right now is to make the farm viable for another generation. And I think I really bought into that pretty early on when I made the decision. It was like, well, here we go. This is what we got to do. So let's just figure out how we're going to do it. So the reason I'm really an entrepreneur and a farmer is I think entrepreneurship's kind of just in me. I am a dreamer through and through. I'm always thinking about new ideas. I'm always thinking about, I love working for myself. I never really liked structure. That's probably why I didn't like school as much, because I hate being told what to do as far as what I can do. And I hate being capped. I don't like the fact of being capped. I like to control where I want to put my cap at. So I like that. I want it all on me. So I feel like it's just kind of in my DNA a little bit. But on the other side of that, so we got this farm, we got hog barns. Our grain farming operation isn't necessarily where Dad and I would want it to be. We want to grow this thing. So I really got into it because to fulfill my goal of, making the farm viable for another generation, we needed some outside capital. So that's really why I got into social media, because I said, you know what, I'm seeing this opportunity with social media. We could probably make some money doing this by also helping people and showing people the ag. It's good for both, the people watching and for us personally. And I got into real estate because my brother and I are partnered in real estate together, and it's a really good way to make some passive income. There's definitely work with it. It's just like any other business, but real estate is just a timeless thing that, it's going to produce you money. Everyone needs a home all the time. So I like real estate in that way. So we got real estate going on, the social media thing going on, and I want to keep going and keep finding opportunities. So if, I think entrepreneurship's kind of it's turned into this cool thing to do. Everyone wants to be a business owner, but you really got to ask yourself if that's really what you want to do. Because, I have a lot of friends that they like the idea of starting their own business, but they really don't want all that pressure. Because if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's all on you. If you start your own business, it's all on you. And if you hire employees, not only does your livelihood depend on your performance and your business's performance, but the people working for you depend on that too. So it's a lot of pressure. So you need to take some time to just evaluate yourself a little bit and see if that is for you, because it's a big responsibility.
Talk about the time, because I feel like that's one thing that probably a lot of people don't realize why it's not for everybody, because touch on all the time you have for hobbies.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't really have hobbies. I'm going to be honest. Someone asked us before, do we hunt and fish? I think Dad and I would love to go hunting and fishing. But to be completely honest with you, I don't have a burning fire desire to go out and hunt and fish, because I love working and building what I'm doing. I like building and working on the farm. I like building and working on the things that I'm doing outside of the farm. And that's really what it takes to do all those things. I really don't have a lot of free time, in the sense that I'm either working here on the farm, or I'm working in my office, or I'm working on my brother and I's real estate thing. And that's kind of it. Those are my hobbies. But to be honest with you, that fills me up. I love that. I love building. That's just who I am. I'm not bagging on anyone that, loves hobbies and has hobbies, that wants to hunt and fish, because sometimes I'd want to go do it, but I just really don't have a lot of time for it. So it's a time commitment. You got to understand that too. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you really want to be a hustler, you just understand that you might not have a lot of free time to do a bunch of hobbies if you're truly wanting to go.
It's kind of a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, I feel like, so I'm not really in the real estate part of it. I mean, my real estate is hog buildings. I mean, I am a little bit in the fact that my wife has a store. We purchased a building in town that she has that. We rent the apartment out above it, but I'm not involved in the rest of it. I think we all have that. Those days where we think, boy, it'd sure be nice to just
kick it,
pick up the hook on the boat and go to the res and, just don't worry about it. And then you're like, well, I would, but.
And here's the other thing. I'm not trying to glorify entrepreneurship at all, but for me personally, I love it. I do love it. Some days I do have those days where I wish, but deep down inside of me, I know that there's nothing I'd rather be doing than that. So you don't and there's levels to entrepreneurship. You don't have to build the biggest business in the world. You can just kind of pick and choose, how far you want to go with the thing. But for me personally, I love it. So it's just kind of personal. So I'd ask yourself, do a little evaluate and learn about yourself, see if this is something you truly want to do. And the other thing is, so I'll just kind of give you my thought process. I like to organize my thoughts a little bit, and I want to build pillars of wealth. And the reason I want to build pillars of wealth is I want to experience 1% things. So what I mean by that is, the wealthiest people in the world are the 1%. And I want to experience things that those people can experience. I want to do things that those people are able to do that 99% of people don't get to do. And that's a really good goal, I think. And that's not me trying to be a douche or anything like that. It's just
douche.
Yeah. I just think I just really want that. I want to be able to do that and have the opportunity to do that. And I want freedom. So I'll just kind of give you my thought process. I like to organize my thoughts a little bit, and I want to build pillars of wealth. And the reason I want to build pillars of wealth is I want to experience 1% things. So what I mean by that is, the wealthiest people in the world are the 1%. And I want to experience things that those people can experience. I want to do things that those people are able to do that 99% of people don't get to do. And that's a really good goal, I think. And that's not me trying to be a douche or anything like that. It's just
douche.
Yeah. I just think I just really want that. I want to be able to do that and have the opportunity to do that. And I want freedom. Farming, and they do all this work and they have all this ground, or they have all these, hog barns or cattle or whatever. And then they got to pay everybody out, and there's very little money.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing left to grow the farm. For me, I would just like to get to the point where the farm could grow itself, the real estate thing could grow itself, and I could take very little from both of those, and I could live off of what other thing I'm doing. So I'm going to try my hardest to just kind of build pillars and take a little bit of money from each, but not just leave a lot of money in those things so we can continue to build them, because that's what I love to do. I love to build it. I loved building things. So, and that's where my passion is. So that's kind of my thought process for that.
And what I love about it is that Sawyer and his brother are very driven. We'll get Clay on here, because the two of them together is, you think I'm crazy. You should get the two of them together and their ideas. But you see, because they want to be so successful, and I'm 25 years older, my plan is to just sponge. I'm just going to sponge off of them. That's my goal. I used to have bigger goals, and now that I'm like, oh, well, you guys pull that off, I'll just sponge off of you.
It's not for everybody. So I'm really just not trying to glorify it. It's just what I love to do, and not everyone's built like that. So any advice for you? I saw that for this question, you're a 17-year-old kid. Figure out yourself, and see if this is really truly something you want to do, and try your best to, if your goal is to make your family farm viable for another generation or grow your family farm, you're going to have to get some outside capital. So start some side hustles. There's so many side hustles out there. It's never been easier to build a business ever in the history of time with the internet, and so many opportunities. Amazon, Shopify, drop shipping, starting a social media brand, freelancing. I mean, there's so many things you can do to make some side income. I try to take as little, once you get to your family farm to the point where you want it to be, try to take as little away from the farm as you can to pay yourself, so that you can just keep growing that farm if that's what you want to do. If you're happy with where your farm is, then maybe pay yourself a little bit more. But it's all personal preference. So, and be patient. You're 17 years old, dude. You don't have to have everything figured out. When I was 18, I never thought that I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. Biggest thing is you got to take action and try things and be patient, because you're going to figure it out, and you got a ton of time. You're not even walking out of the tunnel to go in pregame warmups yet. Look at
that analogy. That's a good analogy.
The game hasn't even started for you yet. So
I'll add to that. I think one thing that Sawyer and Clay have taught me which I thought I was pretty optimistic, but do not be afraid to try something new. And at your age, it's a lot easier to do that because, you know what, if you're 17, 18, 19, 25 years old and you do something that doesn't work, you got a lot of time to make up for that. But I'll add to like what he said. If you're not a social media kind of person, if you're a farmer, the beautiful thing about being involved on a farm is you learn how to do a lot of stuff that the rest of the world doesn't know how to do, as far as fixing stuff, as far as doing things that other people like, oh, I better hire somebody to do that. I see all the time guys that, you know, they got a skid loader and they got a brush bucket and they got this, they got a chainsaw. They run businesses where they clear fence rows. They do businesses where they clean up waterways. They clean up things that are grown over, and the farmer, somebody else, they don't have time to do it. And it's labor, but they're paid very well because in this country, labor is at such a premium that if you're willing to put in the hard time to do it, you can make good money. And so, like for a farm,
and not many people know how to work.
Yeah, not very many people do.
That's the other advantage you got. It's embedded in you as a farm kid. I'm assuming that you know how to work,
right?
And that's especially for young kids, Gen Z. 17-year-olds. Yeah, there's probably not a lot of 17-year-olds that know how to do really manual, hard work labor. So
yeah. So if your farm needs a new skid loader, good way to pay for that skid loader is clearing brush. Whatever. If you got a truck, you can make money doing all kinds of stuff. I've seen people now that are buying these dump trailers and they're renting these dump trailers out, and they got like 3 or 4 of these dump trailers, and they're renting them out for, I don't know, $250 a week or whatever. Yep. You can pay for a dump trailer in pretty short order, and then after that, you're making good money. That's cash flow.
Power washing business, power washing people's houses and sidewalks. I've been seeing that, or power washing hog barns. That's a huge around our place. Yeah. I know a good buddy, shout out to Derek. He has a power washing business. He's a farmer, and he's hustling every way he can, and that's one thing that he does off the farm. He's got a power washing business. Yeah. And he does really, really good at it.
And then the other thing is, whatever you're into, don't be afraid to try something else, because I'll give the example of you guys when you got into real estate.
We just kind of jumped in.
You got a couple of properties, but then you got the idea to try to do Airbnb. Yep. You got a property that you thought would work. You didn't know anything about it.
Nope.
But
jumped in and
it's working really, really well.
Yeah, it's really so don't be afraid. You will never get anywhere if you don't take risk. I'm sorry, but you got to take some risk. You got to take some risk. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to risk it to get the biscuit. That's how it goes.
Oh, look at that.
And you really can't stand there and just contemplate. I know if you save up $10,000 to start a business, you're 17 years old, go all in on that thing. And I guarantee you, if you try to start something for $10,000 and it didn't work, you'd learn a lot about yourself. You'd learn a lot from your mistakes, and that experience, just get up and do it again, because guess what? You're not even walking out of the frickin' tunnel to go on to pregame warm-ups yet. So just keep going, keep digging, don't get discouraged, keep fighting, and you can figure it out. Like Dad said, there's so many opportunities on the internet and off the internet in real life that you could do for side hustles. So that's kind of my advice. That was a long question.
It was, but it was good. And I'll just add to it, and we don't need to go into it, but I've always said, we've talked about this, you learn a lot more from your mistakes than your successes. And so, like you guys, out of the properties that you own, you had one property that you purchased, and it ended up being
complete disaster.
And it's working now.
Yeah, we got it.
But it was a complete disaster. It had multiple things go wrong. But you know what? You guys learned valuable information about how things work when things go wrong.
Yep.
That you would have never
known. We would have never known. Yeah. And one other thing, the last thing I want to say, there's so many people out there, and I've touched on this before. There's so many entrepreneurs, successful businessmen, successful people out there. They're giving out information for free. I'll plug a couple. Brad Lee, Dropping Bombs podcast, Andy Frisella, Real AF podcast, Gary V, if you want to learn about marketing, Gary Vaynerchuk, Audio Experience, great podcast. There's so many good people out there dropping amazing information on how to be a businessman, how to live a better life, just how to be successful. So those are some people that you need to fill your brain with that kind of stuff, because I'll be the first to tell you, I wasn't a good learner, because all I thought about learning was school. And then when I first was introduced to Gary Vaynerchuk or Andy Frisella or Brad Lee, all these people, I can't stop binge listening to their podcast, because I love it. It's just value and value and value and stuff I can apply to my life. And it's really, really, really molded who I am now. It's made me hungrier than I've ever been before, because when you see and you hear these guys say that they're just like you in the fact that some days they don't want to get up and do what they do, and it took them 10 years to build a business, that just gives you motivation that, if they can do it, I can do it too. So listen to those people, fill your head with that good stuff. There's plenty of people out there. I just dropped some. So that's the last thing I'll say.
All right, ask me a question.
Okay. All right. This is going to be another real good in-depth question. What are your thoughts and ideas on electric car batteries? There's a lot of scrutiny that these batteries get for electric vehicles. I feel like that's a really hot button issue for most people if they don't know much about electric vehicles. Are they really bad for the environment? How are these batteries going to last? Are they going to last up to 10 years with hot and cold climates? Are they just going to be, when the batteries are done, are they going to just throw them in a landfill and just have them pollute the shit out of the ground that they're on, for however long it takes them to, what do you call it, disintegrate or whatever? Break down. So what's the whole deal with the batteries? Is there any hope at the end of the tunnel, and is it really as bad as everyone wants to say it is?
Okay, snarky answers first. It is not as bad. It is not as bad as everybody says it is, because no matter what the topic, negativity sells. So pretty much anything that you want to talk about, there's always somebody saying the sky is falling, it's terrible, and blah, blah, blah. The second snarky answer is EVs and batteries are much better than wind turbine blades. If you've ever seen all the videos of wind turbine blades getting covered up at landfills, I'm not a big proponent of wind turbines, but that's just me. So on the battery side, I'll pick off the easy ones first. So 10 years. So if you buy a Tesla, I think that the warranty on that battery pack is that after 10 years, it should have at least 80% of the charging capacity that it did when you bought it. And I should have looked that up before we started. I looked up a bunch of other stuff, but it's something like that. So they don't degrade very quickly. And then the other side of that is today there is over 100 companies that are involved in recycling batteries. And I will also say that my guess is if you talk about the environmental concerns over lithium-ion batteries or rechargeable batteries in general, I'll bet you that the biggest polluter when it comes to batteries is small devices like phones and
power tools.
I'll bet you that more of those batteries end up in places that they shouldn't than anything to do with car batteries. Because they're so small, there's a certain amount of people that I guarantee they don't recycle them. They throw them in the trash can.
There's really no, you haven't really heard of a power tool battery recycling company. They don't recycle them. You just, when your battery on your DeWalt drill goes bad, you kind of just say, well, throw that fucker away.
There's like most batteries, there's an 800 number that you're supposed to call. And I think a lot of I think some big box stores have like recycling centers, but even then, when you throw that in there or you give it to them, I don't know where that ends up. So I think that's a problem. I will speak to the electric vehicle business because that's kind of near and dear to my heart. People don't understand the business and how the batteries are made, and they don't understand what happens to them. And you got to understand that there is a pretty big group in this country or any country that is not in favor of us making the switch to electric vehicles. So there's a lot of misinformation that comes out. And one of the most popular is that batteries are terrible for the environment. Mining the lithium is dirty, and it employs a lot of people in unhealthy conditions, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the EV business is very aware of that. And if you look at, I can't speak to everybody, but I can kind of speak to Tesla because they made kind of a big deal about it. That's why they have done a good job of trying to pick who they work with as far as miners go to get the raw materials for the batteries that not only they're going to make and are making, but the suppliers to them, and to make sure that they're doing it as ethically and as environmentally friendly as they can. Getting back to all the people that are recycling batteries. So, and I don't think this gets explained enough at all. So basically, once you've built a battery pack for a car, that battery pack, the components within it, the nickel, the copper, the aluminum, the cobalt, the iron, all of that stuff can be recycled, and you can get close to 100% of it recycled. And as the technology gets better, you will get to a point where whatever the supply of batteries that are in vehicles on the road at any given time, the supply of raw materials to make the next generation of batteries equal to what is there will not come out of the ground. It will all come from being recycled. And I should have looked up what the guy's name is because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But one of the guys that was one of the original founders of Tesla and who has a great relationship with Elon to this day, he left Tesla, I want to say 3 years ago, and he started a company called Redwood Materials. And their sole, and ironically, they work closely, so they actually have a facility that's in Las Vegas or in Nevada, close to where Tesla's joint venture with Panasonic is, or with LG. I can't remember where they make batteries. And what they're trying to do is perfect the recycling techniques to where when a battery pack in a car gets to its end of life, where it doesn't hold a charge or it's less than 50%, that pack can be recycled. And pretty much we will get to the point that the only materials for batteries that will be mined will be whatever the
need is, because they have all the rest of it.
Right. Whatever the growth is. So as we grow the market, that lithium, iron, copper, aluminum, nickel, it will all have to be mined. But whatever the capacity that's out on the road, as that ages, it will be able to be recycled up to 100% to where, and the other side of it is, it will actually be cheaper to recycle the material, to get the material out of the existing batteries than it will be to mine it. So the incentive for just about everybody will be to use recycled material, because when you get the cobalt, once it is separated, that cobalt is in a powder form all ready to go. You don't have to mine it out of the ground, refine it, and do all the things, and the transportation. So basically, I think what you'll see is, I think that you will see where a company like Redwood Materials, or I think it's called Manganese America, or Life Cycle, a company like that, they will probably build a plant next to, say, Giga Berlin or Giga Texas.
And those are Tesla factories.
Or Fremont, or wherever the Ford factory is, or the Volkswagen factory. They will build it right there to where they will receive those batteries. And it's not just limited to car batteries. So like Redwood Materials, Google it. I think it might have been 60 Minutes. Somebody did a segment about them and showed, they're recycling iPhones, they're recycling Ego lawnmower batteries, basically anything that's a lithium ion battery. They're recycling, and they're figuring out how to make that work. Don't believe everything that you hear. Find out who's saying that and why they're saying it. So there's a huge incentive among the petroleum industry and others that have a horse in the game. We say it all the time, follow the money. They're not good.
Everything they can to stop EVs.
Yeah, they're not good with it. They're not good with it because it's going to hurt their business. And yeah, is it a challenge? Yes, it's a challenge, because today, if you take a battery and you throw it in a landfill, it doesn't get recycled. That's not good. It's not good. But there's people that are working on it, and there's places that are doing it, and it's going to get a lot better. And
what about graphite?
I should have led with that. So the end, it's just like Tesla working on the 4680 cylindrical cell, which is a bigger cell. They're using less and less lithium all the time. They're using iron phosphate. But there's a technology, it's called graphene. And what graphene is, if you take a piece of Scotch tape, I'm super simplifying this, but if you take a piece of Scotch tape and you take the lead out of a carpenter's pencil, and you take that tape and you stick it on that lead and you pull it off, and you know how it shows lead on there. Okay, graphene is 1 atom thick. It is a 1 atom thick layer of graphite. And graphite is super plentiful. But it is crazy strong, and it is crazy conductive.
Durable.
Very durable. And it is just kind of in its infancy, but it has the potential to really revolutionize. Basically, one of the big things that we have to get to make all of this technology cheap enough that it makes it into our everyday life, is you have to get the battery technology great enough that it can hold relatively a huge amount of power for the footprint it has. It has to be cheap enough to produce that it puts it on an even playing field or better than petroleum. And graphene has that potential. So that a lot of people think that is going to be the deal where it makes solar so much cheaper than petroleum for producing electricity, because you'll be able to build batteries at scale at a cost structure that's so low that you can have a huge amount of solar on your house, on your building, in the middle of the desert, whatever, and store that energy to where it's available 24 hours a day. And the same way with car batteries, you will be able to compact. You can store way more range at a much lower weight, which makes those electric vehicles superior, not just equal to, but superior to an internal combustion engine. And that, like I said, it's just in its infancy. But
and is that better for the environment too if they use graphene?
Yeah, because graphite does not have any of the toxicity as cobalt, and it's much easier to mine. It is way easier to mine than cobalt is.
And there's a lot more of it.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of it. And I'll just say on lithium, everybody bags on lithium, but the amount of lithium being used in batteries today than, say, when the first Tesla Roadster was made, it's much less. And everybody knows, that's what everybody's working towards, is to make them cheaper to produce and
better for the environment.
And lithium is expensive to mine, so the less of it that you need. So the thing that they need more of than anything else, and you've heard Elon say this, their earnings call last year, he said, mine more nickel. If you're somebody that's mining nickel, call us. We want your nickel, because nickel is going to be more important quantity-wise than what lithium is, because they're using iron phosphate batteries, and they're finding better ways to make the batteries that they don't need as much lithium. But nickel is whatever process. I'm not sure about graphene when if they get to where they perfect that, whether they need as much nickel. But today, nickel is a much bigger commodity for the production of the batteries where we are today than what lithium is.
There you go. Boom.
I don't know if that covered...
That covered a lot, which is good. It's really good that you touched on that, because I think there's a lot of people that just read the headline, just like everything we talk about on here. You got to really dig deep, because most people don't really dig deep. So if you just read the headlines, and you got to understand that, you know, Ford, well, they're working towards that. But these people that are in
petroleum.
They're in petroleum. They're in ethanol. You know, these people don't want EVs to become a thing. They really don't. And what are they going to do to, you know, try to stop that? Is they maybe, you know, slip a check to a media outlet and say, hey, we'll give you some dividends if you help us out here. I mean, I really believe in the good in people, but man, money talks.
Money's a powerful motivator.
Money talks, and you gotta you gotta follow the money a little bit. You know, people are greedy sons of bitches. It's just the truth of it.
Well, and when people feel threatened. So I will say I'm walking a thin line, because I'm a member of the National Corn Growers Association, and we raise corn, and I want that product to be promoted. So in our area, the county we live in, it is a corn deficit county. In other words, more corn gets ground and fed to livestock in the county we live in than what gets exported, say, to the river or to ethanol plants or to whatever. So to me, the ethanol business I don't really think about the ethanol business. I was at the grassroots meeting,
Corn Growers Association meeting
in Des Moines, and we talked about their platforms for this year, and they used an electronic voting deal called Slido. And when they were prioritizing what is the most important items that they want the corn growers to work on, the winner, the thing that was most important to the majority of people that were at that meeting, was ethanol production. And I was very surprised by that, because I didn't know that it was that popular. But you have to understand that in, say, the state of Iowa, when you get to, there's a lot more counties in the state of Iowa where animal agriculture is not near as popular as it is where we are, and they value those markets for ethanol, because there is an ethanol plant. Because if you're going to build an ethanol plant, build it where there's not any livestock, because the basis is a lot better. A lot of their items that they want to work on are based around ethanol. I'm not on that boat. I believe that we need to promote the exports we have of beef and pork and chicken and turkey and everything else, because we got a hungry world, and the more of it that we can grind and feed and find better genetics to get better nutritional value out of the corn, I'm all about it. Industrial use of corn. I love the packing peanuts. My wife gets a lot of stuff that's got packing peanuts that are made basically out of cornstarch, because I hate the packing peanuts because they go everywhere. But you know what? If you hose them down with water, they just disintegrate, because they're basically made out of cornstarch. And a lot of the plastics that are on farm equipment, John Deere has been great about it. They're making plastic out of corn. I think that's great. Industrial use. Those are all the items that I'm really interested in. I'm not that interested in ethanol, because I feel like it's short-sighted, because at the end of the day, my grandkids are not going to be driving a petroleum industrial internal combustion engine vehicles.
They're not.
I just don't think they are.
They're not going to. You're already seeing it. You're already seeing it. The government is pushing for EVs. They're pushing for EVs. People are going to wake up. And I'm just going to say this. These young kids, we're getting spoon-fed environment. And I'm sorry, the oil business and gas combustion engines don't have a really good rap when it comes to environment. And if we're getting spoon-fed this, I'm sorry to say, but people are going to be all about EVs. And it's just the idea of get on the train or get ran over. I mean, yeah, it sucks. It's scary if you're a farmer out there that's, relies on that ethanol market. But man, you better start figuring some stuff out and prepare for yourself for that, because I see that it's coming. It is coming. I don't know how fast it's coming, but it is coming. So if you're not concerned about it, if you're an older guy and your kids are farming with it, you need to tell your kids that they're going to have to figure out something.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of our most unpopular views that we
and
have.
You can come at us for it, but that's our honest thoughts. It's just like anything. All industries change, the world changes, and you either can be somebody that's on the forefront of that change and adapt and pivot, or you can stay flat-footed and get ran over.
I have no idea how long it will go, and I don't know, but I will just say this, that everybody that's involved in ethanol they need to be aware and they need to be prepared to pivot, because you're going to have to pivot at some point.
The other thing I want to say is there's things in our lives, in our operation, that we're worried about future-wise. I mean,
and we'll get to them.
We're going to talk about that in this episode, actually, because we got a question on it. But African swine fever, that's a really big concern for us hog producers. That's a big concern. So I feel for you guys. If you are somebody that relies on that ethanol market, I feel for you, But my advice for you is don't be so close-minded, because it's coming. I personally believe it's coming, and I just don't really want to see somebody say that it's not and then get screwed over.
Well, and do your own research.
Yeah, right. Do your own research. Like we always say. Figure it out for yourself.
Just because the world has always been a way does not mean that it will always be that way. That's our point.
It's the truth.
Okay. So my EV battery rant is over. So my question for you is, what are your farm and brand goals for the next 5 years?
So the next 5 years, let's just start with the farm. Dad and I, we got these hog barns, and we'll just be 100% transparent with you guys. Not all the hog barns are paid for. We still owe some money to the banks that we, finance through on some of these hog barns. So our main objective right now is to completely pay those off. So we're just cash flowing straight cash. I mean, we make money every month from them, but our main goal right now is we're just trying to pay them things off, because then we can really start making some moves if we do that. The second thing is, once we get that going and whatever, I'll touch on the brand side of things, but this starts growing a little bit. We make some money. We give a lot of value to you guys. Then we want to go buy some ground. I mean, that's our biggest goal right now, is to go buy some ground. And once we got some ground, I would love to get another tractor. I'd love to get a combine. I'd love to get a planter. I mean, I love equipment.
He likes iron.
Yeah, I want some iron. I want to do all of it, and that's kind of our goal. I want an 8320. I want David's our
8420 is what he has.
He's got an 8420.
He's got an
8420. Yeah, I want an 8420. I love those tractors. I think they're sexy. They're sexy. I mean, obviously 8RX is sexy, but those are really nice tractors. So I'd want one of those, As far as the brand goes, I love what we're doing. We're posting content on 2 channels. I love the podcast. I love posting our day-to-day lives as farmers on TDF. But a lot of people keep asking us for merch, and that's coming. But there's something else I really want to do outside of the merch game. I think we got a unique opportunity of a product that we could make for consumers that not a lot of quote unquote influencers can, because we are farmers. So I'll just leave it at that. There's something I really want to do there that I think a lot of people would like, and it's just a big vision. I have a really big goal and dream about that, but I'm just going to leave it at that for now, because we got a lot of work to do to make that happen. But as far as this goes, I want to continue to just keep meeting as many very successful and professional people I can to come on the podcast that can drop a lot of value for you guys. I'd like to get, some more sponsors, some sponsors for this podcast. I'd like to get some more sponsors for TDF, not spam you guys or anything. I'd like to, just continue to grow and get more followers. And, we love giving value to you guys. We love doing what we do, but we also got to try to make a little bit of money from it. That's just how it goes. We started this for you guys, but we also started this for ourselves too. So we can, because the more money we make from doing this, the better stuff we can do to this barn to make the experience better, the better stuff we can build and buy off for the farm and make it more entertaining. It all is going to go back into what we're doing. So,
and somebody keeps moving the goalposts on this building the farm. I mean, thank you, Grundy County, because I thought, we can buy some ground for $15,000 an acre. Oh no, now it's going to be $22,000 an acre.
Yeah.
And I was riding with a guy up to the corn growers thing, and he just said he does some appraisal work, and he said, yeah, I think before 2021 is over, there'll be a piece of ground in your county that will probably sell for $20,000. Well, if
that doesn't pencil.
If you're even if you're an established farmer, and this, there's so much that plays into this, because the problem we're into an inflationary environment, and our government has decided that at no expense is going to be spared to keep the stock market going up. Because if you lay over what real inflation is, which it's awful hard to find numbers on what real inflation is, but if you look over the past few years and what air quotes real inflation is, and you lay that over the stock market hasn't really gone up that much. We've just inflated all the prices to make up for the amount of money that our government's printing. And I don't even think that's like a far out there. I think pretty much everybody understands that we've inflated the dollar because we've printed so much of it, so assets keep going up. Well, now you're to the point where people that have a lot of money invested in financial instruments, they're getting nervous. So they're going to the real estate market, which that's why the real estate market is driven up so much, minus commercial. I think commercial isn't under near as much pressure because of COVID. But, and then land prices. You've seen it. You've seen all the stories about Bill Gates buying land. Why would Bill Gates buy land? He doesn't need any more money unless he was thinking that the mass fortune that he has that's in stocks and bonds and other things isn't going to be worth near as much, so he's buying land. And so, for us, it's a tough deal, and that will kind of tie into one of the next questions that somebody asked about, why we do what we do. But we do want to get some sponsors. Our whole thing on the sponsor side is we really want to work with people that we either use their product, or I'll use Barn Tools as an example. So Barn Tools is a company that we use their alarm systems in our barns, and they sponsor the
TDF channel.
The TDF channel. And that's a real easy relationship because we use their product and we really like it. And so we don't have to be,
salesy.
We don't have to sit there and say,
we're not going to be those guys that sells you bullshit.
And so that's kind of the thing. We could sell sunglasses and I don't know what else. We could trinkets and this and that. Or
our biggest thing is real, authentic. Yeah. We're real and authentic. We're no BS. We want to be as real as we can with you guys, and we want to give you. If we do run, we have sponsors and promote products. It's products that we actually use, and we think that you guys can get some value from, just like everything else we do. So, I would just say I would love to get this channel. I'd love to grow this Barn Talk to be 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'd love to get, I'd like to get, I don't know.
The sky is the limit.
Yeah, I'd love to get a lot of listeners per podcast. As far as This Will Do Farm, I'd love to get 100,000 subscribers on that. And I'd love to have some sponsors on both channels and make some merch and keep my secret a secret for now, but I'd love to launch that as well. And then we'll just grow the hell out of the farm and make better content and grow this barn and make it cooler and more of a better experience. And just, that's my goal. I just want to keep building, baby. Keep building.
There you go. And then Torque will get his goal of getting the nicest mower he can with the swivel koozie. I like that little swivel koozie on the armrest. I put my cold drink in there and I just mow grass. That'd be just fine with me.
Yep. That's good with me too. So I'll be honest with you guys, those goals right there that we just touched on, I think about those just about every single day. So
a lot.
All right, Dad, I know all business ventures have risks. How do you protect yourself if the company you have a contract with, we're talking about our hog farming operation, we contract grow pigs. What if those companies don't renew the contract that you have, and then when your contract's up for renewal, they try to lowball you? Because in his situation, that happened a lot for chicken producers in his area, and they didn't renew the contract, and then that company just bought them out for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
So what do you say about that as far as contract growing pigs and, our contracts, and are you worried about it, and what's kind of the risk of it?
So yes, that is a risk. And, if you are going to step out and try to grow your business, grow your farm, there's risk involved. And that's a big risk. So the poultry business went vertically integrated at a pretty quick rate. And today you can't build my understanding is, so there's a turkey co-op not very far from where we live that has a bunch of guys that grow, that are involved, and they own the packing plant and all that. But they can't build a shed unless the turkey's sold. So unless they know that they have the market to sell more turkey, they don't produce any more. And so there's nobody coming in from the outside and saying, I want to build a turkey shed or a poultry shed, because if you're in it, you're in it. And if you're not, you're never getting in. The hog business traditionally has not been that way, in the fact that it's much more fiercely independent. And so we've touched on this before, that even today, there are still a lot of guys that own their own sows, that feed out their own pigs. There's guys that own shares together, like 8 guys own a sow unit, and they feed out their own pigs. And they may or may not have a contract with a packer, or they might have a contract with a couple different packers. And then you get into the fringe, you get into guys that they pasture raise pigs and they're selling them to Neiman Ranch, or they're under contract to them, or they have a really small operation where they're producing their own meat and labeling it, and they're selling it at country markets, they're selling it at different places across whatever state they're in. There's a gamut. So I think it's going to be a lot. And it has happened. I mean, consolidation is happening. The biggest of the hog producers have gotten bigger. And I think we said this on maybe the last podcast or one before that, in any business, because of costs and because of regulations, if you're not growing a little bit, you're going backwards. So we feed for what I would say is a smaller of the biggest integrators. So it's a family-owned company. They actually do have ownership in a packing plant. They're involved in a group. There's a group that owns a packing plant. And that's who our contract's with. And the way it works is, when you decide you're going to build a building, in the past, you could pretty much figure out if you could make it work to build a building, and then you could go search for what we would call an integrator, somebody that wanted to give you a contract to feed pigs, and there would be multiple people that would be interested in that. Being in southeast Iowa, there's a lot of people that have interest. Today, it's not that way. You would have a much more limited number of people that would be interested in giving you a contract to build a building.
And the reason for that is because of what kind of happened the last couple of years with COVID and the packing plant shutting down. And we talked about that in one of our first episodes when we touched on this subject. It was kind of like a lot of these integrators, I think, were like, oh, I don't know if we want to keep scaling. Because for a while, it was like, let's just keep scaling, and keep scaling this thing. Yeah. And then that kind of happened, and they were like, oh boy, maybe we should rein it back in a little bit and not take on so many new growers. So
when I said, before you decide you're going to build a building and then decide what packer you were going to, or what integrator you're going to feed for. Well, a lot of these integrators were in the same boat, in that they were just growing, and they would build the sow unit and figure out who was going to build buildings for them. And then once they knew they had all that, they'd go to all the packers and say, hey, we're going to have an extra 40,000 pigs a year. Do you want them? and they would just play one against the other, and all these packers were like, yep, give us more, we'll take more. But then when, as Sawyer said, when COVID came and we slowed down the line speeds, and we kind of reached capacity. Basically, we reached capacity as far as how many pigs we could harvest a day. And when that happened, all these packers went back to the people they're buying pigs from and saying, we'll guarantee you this much, but we're not taking any more than that. And if anything happens like COVID was what they call in most contracts an act of God. In other words, it was out of their control. So when you signed a contract with a packer and it said that they guaranteed that you could deliver to them, you had to promise that you were going to deliver, 8,000 pigs a day, or I don't know, 2,000 pigs a day, or whatever it was. When COVID came, they were able to breach that contract because it was an act of God, and because they couldn't take them. They just couldn't. They could not process that many pigs, and that changed the business. So today, I'm not sure if you went to like the group we feed for. I'm not sure if you went to them and said, "Hey, I want to build another building," whether they would let you do it or not. Because they're at capacity, they haven't really added any more sows. They don't need more space. And not everybody's like that, but a lot of the biggest integrators are that way. And that brings up another good point in the fact that there's been a lot of talk within the federal government that they wanted to slow the line speed down. In other words, how fast they were processing pigs, they wanted to slow that down in the name of biosecurity for the workers as far as COVID, and also for worker safety. And sadly, the people that will affect the most are the smallest producers that they buy pigs from. Because if you were processing, just say that you were processing, let's keep round numbers, say you were processing 10,000 pigs a day. And because of regulation, you can only process 8,500 pigs a day. So you need to shed 1,500 pigs that you're receiving at that plant every day. Well, who is the easiest person for you to get that out of? You can argue that it's your biggest producer, but since you depend on them for 900 pigs or 1,000 pigs out of that number, it's probably easier to just say, I'm going to buy less pigs from the guy that brings me 2 semi-loads twice a week. Just say, well, we're not going to keep doing that. Well, that hurts the smallest producer. And you drive more people out of the bottom. And that's the problem with government, is they don't understand how, for as much as they have a lot of smart people, I don't think they understand how basic economics work. Am I worried about my contract? Yeah, I am. One thing that we did every time that I built a new building, and then when Sawyer built his building, we just renewed our contracts. So my first contract would have been up. It already would have been up. But when I built my second building, I re-upped it for 10 years. When I built my third building, I re-upped all 3 buildings for 10 years. And when we built Sawyer's building, we re-upped all 4 buildings, or all 3 buildings plus his, for 10 years. So we have a contract. Now, you can say that, that limits you because obviously costs have gone up and the building cost has gone up, and basically we renewed for the same price that we've had. But the other side of it is, today there is an excess number of buildings out. Not as much in our area, but Northwest Iowa and other places around. And we talked about this, about how some of these sites that guys built that were bigger, they're not nearly as desirable. So some of those sites could be sitting empty, or they've gone to somebody else, or they've had to figure out how to feed their own pigs, whatever it is. And that's all, all of that can happen. And as we go forward, it's probably not going to be any easier. And the other thing I'll say is, and Sawyer can probably touch on this, I will guarantee you that 10 years from now, and maybe 5 years from now, we may not be raising pigs the same way we are today. We may have to change the feeders. We may have to change the square footage. We might have to change
throw hay down. We might have to.
we might change the control. There may be a technology out there that, and we've got to adapt.
Yeah. And the other thing I would just say about contract safety. So really, we're not going to get. I don't think we're going to get lowballed. Just because Dad's talked about a little bit about our buildings, but we kind of build our buildings. If you're the integrator we grow pigs for, we have some relatively newer kind of modern hog barns. We've built over the last,
and we try to keep them
in good shape. So what I would just say is, do your absolute best to be the best grower you possibly can be. Take care of your barns, mow it, put rat bait out, do all the little things, because if you're a good grower, not only for the pigs, you're taking good care of the pigs, but you're taking care of the barns, the facilities that these pigs are being raised in. You're trustworthy. You don't lie. You do it. You're doing a good job. Chances are you're probably not going to get cut when times get tough.
Right.
So, it's a concern of ours, but we try to do our absolute best to, do a good job. And we have a good relationship with the integrator we grow pigs for, because we've been doing that, Dad. We've been doing that for a long time. Another thing that kind of helps us a little bit is we're a little closer to, their feed mill. So it's just like easier for them to get feed to us, and et cetera, et cetera. So if we just keep, just do a good job, do a really good job, keep up on your buildings, do everything you can to do so it's it's not even a question if they're going to cut you or not. But if you're somebody that slacks and you don't take care of your barns, you better be a little, you could be a little concerned.
Yeah. And the other thing is, keep the lines of communications open. So, I have a little bit different experience in the fact that I've been in the industry and I've been on both sides of it and all that. But you know what? I make it a point to call people that I used to work with and the people that we work for. I make it a point to call them and talk to them, because, you might only see your fieldman every week and you might see a vet when something's wrong, but the guy that runs the production and the guy that runs the money, they all want to know what's going on too. They don't get the chance to see that, and they enjoy knowing, because at the core of their business is the people out making sure that the pigs that they raise get to the packing plant and are full value. So they value that interaction. And so
they want to see that you care.
Yeah. And I make it a point to talk to those guys whenever I can. And you know what? Heck, I'll make no bones about it. What we're doing right here, pretty much everybody that listens to this and sees what we do and sees the social media knows. They know we raise pigs under contract, and they know who we raise them for. We're not sponsored by them, and we don't mention them because it's not our place to talk about that. But pretty much you don't have to dig very hard to figure out who we actually feed for and all that. And I feel like that's an asset to us, because if anything ever changes and we get in a situation where we need to look for somebody else, our business is no different than any other business. And I've said this so many times. The contacts you have, the people you know, the associations you're in, the relationships that you build will pay you dividends in ways that you never thought possible. And so we love meeting people within our industry and outside our industry. And the more connected that you can be, and the more that you can associate with people and just become known,
the better off
the better off you are.
Yeah. So, yeah, just like Dad said, and I think what we're doing for the industry is good. And here's the honest truth about contract finishing. and I've said this before, but most people that are raising pigs today are contract finishing pigs. And we are really, truly the first open family farm to come out and kind of say, this is what we do. This is how it goes. No one really wants, it's been kind of this unknown thing that farmers really just don't talk about because you want to keep it family farm. And we are a family farm. Dad and I take care of all these pigs by ourselves, just him and I. I mean, it's still a family farm. We're not controlled by the company we grow pigs for. You know, they help us out. We talk to them. They are just there. And you'd want it that way anyway because they're professionals. They have a vet on staff that comes and let us know that, you know, you need to do these things. They got a fieldman that comes to our barns to ensure that we're doing the right things. I mean, for you guys, the consumer, honestly, you might be a little bit more concerned with a farmer that's really not having that is producing pigs by themselves because no one is going over there to check their barns. You don't know. I mean, most people, you know,
are doing the best.
They're doing the best they can. They're trying their best, but you know, with this, you know, we got people that are coming to our barn, showing up, making sure we're doing all the right things. We get audited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's been this unknown hidden gem that people contract finish. And there's a big misconception out there that these packing plants own everybody. We're owned by the packing
We're owned by
plants.
Smithfield.
We have no association with them. We load the pigs onto the truck and that's where they go. And that's really the closest association we have with them.
Yeah. And
they don't control us. They don't come to us and, you know, no. Dad and I, it's family. We're still a family farm.
That gets thrown around a lot. And I'll just say, you know what? The integrator we feed for, they're a family farm.
They are a family farm.
So there's a family that owns that operation. And you know what? Yeah, they've got, I don't know how many people they work. I mean, 100 people, a couple hundred people working for them. But that's a family operation that grew. It grew and it employs a pile of people. And at the end of the day, it's a family that makes the decisions. And you know what's beautiful about that? Is they aren't making those decisions 100% because, we can make an extra 10 cents a pig by doing this. They make a lot of those decisions because they live in the communities that they raise these pigs in. And they
care about people.
They do what they do because they want to employ as many people as they can. Because let's face it, there aren't that many opportunities in a lot of small towns around the Midwest. And they're one of the biggest employers. And I just hate it when people start bagging on, you know, they all these integrators are just, they're just monsters.
Corporate. They're all corporate
farming.
They don't care. They don't care about anybody.
Corporate farming.
It's not true.
It's not
true. Most integrators were started at their family operated. Yeah. They are.
It's gotten to a big scale. They're to a big scale. But that also creates huge opportunities to do the best job they can, to have the best accountability they can, and to deliver a product to the supermarket that is safe and that is consistent and is good. And, you know, I don't know why it is in America that we have this thing where we love a success story, but then we love to tear it down. And it's like, it's great when you're growing and you're growing and you're growing, but then you get to a certain, and it doesn't matter what industry it is, you get to a certain point, well, then you're just a monster. You're just a monster, and you need to pay. You need to pay. And I'm like, you know, worry about your own problems. And I realize I'm getting on a tangent. I realize there's situations where corporations get to a point, there's no accountability. They make decisions based on the bottom line, their stockholders and all that. We're not talking about that. When you're down to the level of the people that are involved in the hog industry, it's not a corporate boardroom like that. It's people that still get their hands dirty, that still know where everything gets done.
That still care about their community, that still care about the people that work for them. I mean, yeah, these documentaries obviously have a agenda. Clearly,
100%.
These people that come out with videos and say that the Packers own everybody have an agenda, and they're not in the industry. They're not in the industry. We're in the industry. We live it every day, and I can just tell you, they care. We care. Everything. Packers care, integrators care. The guys that are raising the pigs for the integrators, we care.
Yeah, and I'll go on that. When you talk about these Packers, these Packers are terrible.
We take immense pride in what we do.
That is the beautiful thing about capitalism and competition. So, we deliver pigs to at least 3 different packers that are processing the hogs, and they're putting that meat in packages, and they're putting their label on it, and they're selling it all over the world. Guess what? That is an ultra competitive market. And if there is a hint of problems when it comes to food safety, the quality of the product, how easy it is to cook, does it taste good, is it efficient to make? Is it easy for me to make for my family? Those guys are working on that 24/7 because they're in the fight of their life, because they're competing against everybody else doing it.
It raises everybody else. It raises the bar.
It does.
And that makes that's innovation. That's how innovation's created. That's how products get better. That's how we've started from. Here, I wanted to say this, and every time I want to bring up something and I forget it, and I regret forgetting it because then it doesn't come to me.
But you got it.
I got it. If I hate when I see people say they don't like this new farming era. They don't like how productive things are because it's too productive. There's too many people involved.
It's too large scale.
Too corporate. It's too large scale. People don't understand that not even 100 years ago,
we could barely feed ourselves.
Everyone was a farmer. Everyone was a farmer because we had to be, because it wasn't productive enough. We're at this point now, and Pomp talked about this on Pomp's podcast. He's like, we're at the point now that not everyone has to be a farmer.
Right.
And you can go do things and have jobs in other areas, and we can still feed the whole world with just what 1% of the world is farming and producing the food for the rest of the 99% of people. Why would we want to go backwards? We got to get more productive. There's going to be more people getting born. Yeah. And I think we need to do, we're doing our very best we can to be productive and have ethics and care for the people. And I think everyone has that in mind.
And we get a bad rap. Food production gets a bad rap because we produce this food and we produce it very efficiently. But you know what? It's up to you. It's up to you whether you eat the chicken that you buy, whether you eat a grilled chicken breast, or whether you eat a chicken nugget. It is not up to the farmers in the world to tell you to make good choices. And it's the same way with pork. You can decide that you're going to eat
a sausage egg McMuffin
or a pork ribeye grilled, or smoked or whatever.
Pork butt.
Or whether you're going to dump a gallon of barbecue, although it is pretty good when you dump a gallon of barbecue sauce on. I love pulled pork nachos, and I am ready for winter. I've got my winter weight on. But that's my choice. And I feel like we get a bad rap. Everybody says, "Oh, you guys are producing trash food." No, we're not. It's how you decide you're going to ingest it. And I don't care what product you're selling. That's how it is. And I don't know how to change that. But whether you feed that pig in a dirt lot and give him acorns and Lord knows what else and granola, and you claim that makes that pork loin taste different, or you buy a Tyson pork loin from Fairway, there is not very much difference. I would venture there's damn near no difference between it, but the marketing is done way better. But then when you take that home and you decide if you're going to grill it or you're going to roll it in breading and deep fat fry it, that's up to you. And
right.
And that's the beautiful thing about what we have. We have such a supply of food that we're able to make bad choices instead of many countries in the world where you can't even get meat. If you get meat, you are
lucky.
You're damn lucky.
Yep.
And so anyway, I think we went a little over.
Well,
on that.
I think it was a really good. It was necessary. I'll just say this. That's my last thought. I'll give the pasture raised, whatever it is, credit. They do a really good job of marketing and storytelling.
Yes.
And what we're doing right now is we're telling a story of how it actually is, how most farmers in America that do pork production just that's what we do. This is how it's done. We're going to show you how it's done. We're going to tell you everything and why it's done. And we're under the belief that if we can do that, no bullshit farming, we give you 100% transparency. Most people, they're not going to fall for the marketing gimmicks that the pasture-raised industry likes to throw out there that, the acorns is what does it. The acorns there are the what?
And eating dirt.
That's what makes the pig taste better.
Well, and all of it. And, the pasture-raised crowd, which I'm fine with. If I could get $7 a pound for it and I had a way to do it, I'd do it. It's good money, but I'm not that way. And the other thing is, the people that say that we're monsters and that, we've got these pigs and we treat them terribly and it's a horrible environment. I work in that environment every day. If it's horrible, I wouldn't do it. I brought my pigs inside a long time ago because I know what it's like to raise them outside. I mean, everything we do, there's a reason we do it that way. And it's not about
how we can just control these animals and make their lives a living hell. Most of the time, you walk in the barn, they're hoo-hawing and running around and loving life because they're together. They're eating. They got food at their disposal.
Food
all the
and water
time.
and a place to sleep and somebody's ear to chew on.
Yeah,
we're a little passionate.
We're a little bit passionate.
Would I give you a question or is it my question?
Well, how long are we going right now?
I don't know. We're a ways. We're not that bad.
All right. We'll just have to be quicker with these ones.
Yeah.
This is a really in-depth episode, y'all. These are good questions. This is the way I like it.
Oh, well, what's going to be the next big leap in innovation in hog production?
Yeah, I'll try to wrap this up. This can be I can talk about this, but we kind of talked on the last one. So, I personally believe what the next innovation is exactly what Barn Tools is doing. The sponsor we got on TDF. We absolutely love the product as pork producers and just farmers that do animal agriculture. Just the whole idea that you can get all the information on your mobile device, cloud-based. We don't have to mess around with them annoying alarm calls that don't take your password ever. It's completely changing the game for us. I love it, and I think they're just going to get better. I think that if these companies partner up together, like we have bridge rid bin vibrators and we have some bin slides, bridge rids that automatically open and close and everything like that. If those
is that are we far enough along that we can talk about that?
I think I'll get it out here soon.
So talk about that for a minute because that's something brand new.
Yeah. So Bridge Rid they're a bin vibrator company. Everybody hates beating on their bins, and these bin vibrators have absolutely been a game changer. Dad got the bin vibrators a while ago, and we have them on.
I've had them for a few years.
We have them on all our sites, and they're amazing. And Bridge Rid went ahead and put bin vibrators on my new barn, and they also got these new automatic bin slides that came out. And they open and close the bin automatically, and there's 3 bins, and each in the workroom you have this little box, and it has, open, it has on for a switch, and that's the bin that it's on. It's got an off switch, and then it's got one that's like in standby. So you can have a bin on it's feeding out of, and then you got a bin that's on standby, and when the bin that's on goes empty, it automatically closes those slides and goes to the bin that's on standby and opens those slides up. And then when you come in the next day and your pig's got feed and you don't even know that the bin switched, well, on that control, the bin that went empty has a red light that comes on. The bin that it switched to has a green light on. So then you switch the toggle, so you make the bin that went empty off, you put the next bin in standby, and the one that it's feeding out of now is on. So that's a really good way to, always make sure the pigs always have feed, because that can be a problem sometimes when you're sleeping at night and then the bin runs empty and you come up there the next morning, the pigs are out of feed.
Yeah, because so the way that works is our feed systems are set up that if they'll only run so long before they time out, they've got a timer on them. And the reason they do that is because because pigs are like convicts and they have nothing but time to dream up ways to screw you over. I should probably trademark that, put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Anyway, say they get a drop tube, say they get a tube out of a feeder. Well, you don't want the feed system to just set to where it'll just run and run and run, because if they happen to do that, you could auger an entire bin
of feed into the pit
of that building, which that makes nobody happy, and you'll fight that for years. So every time the feed system starts, it's got a timer set that it'll only let it run so long, and you try to dial that in. I mean, we know about how long
it takes for a whole set of feeders
to fill a side if it's empty, and they should never be empty, so they should only run, maybe like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever. If the feed hangs up in the bin, they'll run and run and run, and they'll just run empty. Then it'll time out, and it won't restart.
Because you have to manually restart it.
Right. So the bin vibrators fixed that problem, in that if your feed hangs up 95% of the time, unless you happen to have a deal where
massive chunk of feed.
Or I don't know, you had a seam that leaked in the bin and you got a bunch of wet feed in there or something. It's rare, but it could happen. So it keeps that feed flowing. But then we've always fought just exactly what you talked about. If the bin runs empty in the middle of the night, you don't know it, and with the automatic slides, it will sense. So it's got some really great technology in it, in the fact that when the bin vibrator turns on, if that bin is empty, it senses the amp draw on the vibrator and
over vibe.
And it understands that it's vibrating that hard because the bin's empty. So it says, oh, I got to open a new bin. So then it will shut that slide, and it'll open the next bin and shut that vibrator off and turn on the new one. So my systems don't have the automatic slides. So you have to manually open the slides, and then you shut off the vibrator that's on the empty bin, and you turn the vibrator on the next one.
And open up the slides manually.
Yeah, and all that. But what Sawyer has is the newest version. And that's the thing is...
Another thing I want to throw in there, in the wintertime, slides get frozen. So you got to go outside and sit on the wet snow or ice and get a crowbar and try to pry those slides open, and it can be a major pain in the ass. So that's another great thing with the automatic bin slide is those slides will open up, and they got a little motor DC motor on them, and they'll just open up no matter. Well, I haven't really given it a shot. We haven't tried it out yet, but I'm hoping that I won't have to do any more crowbar. But
full disclosure, we haven't gone through a winter with them
we're
yet.
trying. We're still trying them out, but so far I'm very, very happy with them. So back to what I was saying, I was thinking, Barn Tools has all this information that you're going to be able to see your water consumption from your water meter. You can see the temperature. You can see the humidity in your barn. I think they're just only going to expand those type of, that company and those kind of technologies is huge for not only for the integrator, but for the producer, the grower, the independent farmer that's growing the pigs. It's massive. And I think they're going to be able to maybe, not saying any of this could happen, but if they partnered up with Bridgerid and maybe you could get a notification, hey, your bin went empty, bin 11 went empty. We switched to 10, order feed for bin 11. Or maybe
they just order it.
Maybe they'll just order it for you. So you don't even have to do that step, which I can see those automated things happen. Another thing I could see happen is an automatic power washer. I've power washed barns, Dad's barn, many times. Well, not many times, about a few times until I was like, man, this really
enough
sucks.
That he knew that he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, it takes about 16 hours to do one 1,200 room, so 32 hours total to do a whole 2,400, and it is a grind. It is a grind. I give mad props to anybody out there that power washes full time. That's your job because you got some.
You're earning your money.
You are earning your money, and you are a tough son of a gun. But I think for a long time, that's kind of how it's been, and there's really not been any innovation. So if we can get an automatic power washer to wash these finishers, that'd be huge. I don't care if you got to run the damn thing 3 times through the barn to get it as clean as we get it clean now, as long as I'm not up there for 32 hours.
Well, it's time. Labor is going to get to be a bigger and bigger thing, and I think a lot of the innovation is being driven by that labor.
Yeah, because less people want to do all that work, so you got to figure out a way to automate it that way. And then Dad and I had, this is kind of Dad's thing. You could get a drone, these indoor drones that there's a little box at the end of your barn that it opens like this. It's like a metal box on the outside of your barn, and this door opens up on the inside of the barn, and your drone flies out, and it goes through the pens, and it's like a camera feed, and it shows you if there's any pigs that are, got a limp. There shows you if there's any deceased pigs in the pen. It shows you if, the feeders are full or empty. It does a little bit easier for your chore. So when you go up there that day,
you know where you're going.
And it gives you, like, let's say it walks through the barn for you or flies through the barn for you, and then it gives you an update and says, we have a pig with a limp in this pen. The feeders seem to be out on this feed line, and this pig is deceased in this pen. So it makes your chore list that easier. You know exactly where to go. You don't have to walk through, and it's just a time thing. I could see that being a thing too. So there's a lot of opportunities out there for people if you're, techie or into engineering and everything like that. So,
or better yet, I'll just get me a Tesla bot.
Yeah, so I'm optimistic for sure about it. I think Dad is too. I think there's a lot of innovation that could be coming here, but I'm very happy with what's coming so far, and I'm very happy to have the platform we do because
we get to try cool stuff.
We get to try some really cool stuff, and I believe in a lot of the companies that are coming out with stuff, and the products we got, I'm really excited about them. So I think it's just going to get better and better. But those are kind of our ideas of what we think's coming.
Yep.
There could be a lot more that we didn't touch on, but those are kind of the ones that come to mind right away. All right, last question. I don't think we're going to get to the bonus questions because I don't think so. So make this one relatively quick as well. How long do you think before African swine fever reaches America, or does it at all?
I am an optimist, and I'd like to tell you that it won't, but there's so many ways for it to get in, both in product and people. I don't know. I think we could have it here within 3 years, and I don't know. I think we're doing the best job we can to prepare for it, but I don't think commodity groups and the hog industry I think we do know how serious it is, but if that happens, it'll be life-changing because, I don't know, roughly 30% of the pork we produce, give or take, is exported, and the initial reaction to it making landfall in the United States would be that all those exports would be halted.
Yeah, talk about what happens if it does.
So if it makes landfall, if it's found anywhere in the United States, the first thing that happens is you would set up a quarantine zone within so many miles around the area where it was found. So if it was found in my finisher here in where we live, there's probably 27 other hog buildings within 3 miles.
3 mile radius.
And I'm not sure what the radius is for quarantine, but I think it might be 5 miles.
3 to 5 miles, something like that.
And within that radius, every pig in that area would be euthanized, and no animals would be allowed to leave. And so in the situation we're in, none of those deceased animals that you euthanize would be hauled to a rendering. Like, you're not going to take them to a rendering plant where, they make choice white grease and all that. They're going to be either
burned,
composted. Well, I don't know. I don't think you could burn them. And people talk about compost them, but I don't think you would compost them because you would be worried about birds getting in the compost. So I literally think that you would probably, and this is not official, I'm just thinking this through, and I think this is still a little up in the air, but I think what it comes down to is you would either compost them in the building. In other words, you euthanize every pig in that building, crank the curtains up, shut the fans off, probably plastic the fans so that no air is moving out of it, shut the door, and let them naturally compost, which would be a horrendous stench if you're in the building. But don't move those animals out and let them compost there. Or you would bring them out and you would bury them immediately. So you would be digging a big hole and burying those animals. And you're talking about thousands and thousands of pigs.
So, and if in that 3 mile radius, if they find another case,
then the radius goes out.
And then it goes another 3 miles.
Or 5 miles.
Or 5
I can't
miles,
remember what
whatever.
it is.
So not only is that whole radius getting euthanized, but if they find another place with African swine fever there, then it goes another 3 to 5 or whatever.
It's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
So
potentially,
it could really, really, really mess some things up, and there'd be a lot of people that are unhappy. And yes, that would just be. This is a big concern in what we're doing, and a lot of people are aware of it, and it is probably the number one scariest situation that could possibly happen.
It would be an economic disaster on the scale of which in ag, I don't know if you'd ever seen, because the amount of money, I mean, it's not a situation where the U.S. government's going to write you a check for those pigs, because it would be on a scale, depending on where it happened, it would be on a scale that I don't think you could write a check like that. And so then
Exports shut down, right?
exports completely shut down.
Can't export any meat.
Transportation shuts down within I don't quote me on these numbers, but I think it's like a 20-mile radius maybe. So no pigs moved. Everything would just have to stop. So if you're at a sow unit that was in that, you would have to euthanize the pigs that you were weaning because you could not move them out to the finishers. So that would be another whole deal. But between the lack of exports, the lack of corn being ground, the lack of pigs and product being transported, the economic impact would be ginormous.
It would be so drastic.
Yeah. And so, it would ripple out through everything. You'd have shortages of meat at
too much corn. Corn price would be awful.
Terrible. And, not enough product supermarkets, depending on where it got here and if it continued to spread. Now, the one thing I will say is I think America is probably much better equipped to find it and to quarantine it and to stop it than probably any of these other countries that it's been in.
Yeah, so it's been in China, and where else has it been?
It's been in China, it's been in Russia, it's been in part of Europe, it's been in Africa. It hasn't been in the Caribbean since the 80s. It was in the Dominican, I think, in the 80s.
I wanted to say this a little bit. We talked about this before we shot this. Why don't you think, if China's trying to, like you said, it's a really weird relationship we have with China, because they need us for some things, but also they want to overthrow us as the number one power. They want to be the dominant, and they know that America has been dominant, and they want to take us out a little bit. I feel like that's my assumption. I mean, that's how I feel. Why don't they just drop the virus in the United States if they want to tear us down?
They need us till they don't need us. And so the easy answer to that is, one, right now they need us to buy their products. So the United States is the biggest consumer of Chinese-made products in the world. So they need that. I think they're our biggest export partner. In other words, they need our pork and beef and corn and soy to feed their population, because the one thing that the Chinese do know, we talked about how there's many different ethnic groups there, and the number one goal of the ruling party, because they are all of one ethnic group, to keep control of everything else, you have to have a well-fed population, because people that are well-fed are much less likely to rise up. But if they get hungry enough, they'll do a lot of things. So it's a really weird situation in the fact that on the one hand, they are our biggest competitor on the world stage, politically, militarily, and economically, and then they're our biggest trading partner. And so I don't know if it is in their best interest. I mean, they have ASF, and here's the thing. So if you have African swine fever, it doesn't do anything to the meat as far as to consume it. It's not a virus that is transmissible between species, unlike bird flu or whatever they called the swine flu, any of those. So it doesn't affect the consumption. However, because we're trying to keep it from moving around the world, that's why they cut all the exports. So the question will be raised, if it continues to spread through Europe, and then we get it in the United States, the number of countries that can export pork around the world gets really small, and I'm not sure if they can supply
the need.
So then you get the idea, will we continue to export? And if we do, then the economics of it are not near as great. But today it is a huge and let's just be honest.
It doesn't affect humans. Right?
It doesn't affect humans in any way.
You don't have anything to worry about it as far as humans. You're getting a virus. It's not going to be a new corona.
Right. So the number one priority is keep it out of the United States.
Biosecurity.
And so, when you go to the Caribbean or you go on vacation, don't bring beef sticks back from China, or don't bring meat products back from some country and put it in your suitcase, because that's just stupid. So I guess we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we're optimists about it. I mean, so one other thing I wanted to say is like, okay, we were talking about contracts here.
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, your contract is only as good as the end. It's no different than any contract with anybody. You know, I agree to raise pigs for you, and you're going to pay me. Well, when you have no money to pay me, and I can't pay my bills, and I can't pay the mortgage, then I'm probably not going to raise pigs for you. But I might be in a situation where I can't raise pigs for anybody.
I feel like if that happens, the government's going to have to step in.
Well,
they are going to have to, because if all the integrators and all the people producing pork are essentially eliminated,
right,
and everyone starts back to zero,
right.
I mean, your food production, when we get this whole thing sorted out, is going to be still terrible. I mean,
that would all have to be worked out, because that would be an unprecedented event that there's never been.
Ever.
It's never happened, so the need for it has never been there, so it would all have to get figured out.
Let's just hope it comes, if it ever does come, let's hope it comes after Biden's administration. Because if he handles this situation, if he handles that situation as bad as he handled Afghanistan,
yeah,
we're going to have to, I don't know, we're going to have to figure something out.
So because Sawyer is modeling the brawny paper towel guy today, he looks like he's ready for fall.
Hey, it's flannel season, baby. I'm getting my inner lumberjack fit looking here. I'm ready to lay some wood. And you guys should too. So throw your flannels on. It's fall, baby. Come on.
So on TikTok, there's a gal on there that she came up with an absolute genius. I saw it and I was like, that is so genius. So she is selling T-shirts, and I would shout her out, but I think she's already got more orders than what she can probably do. She has a T-shirt with the brawny paper towel logo, which is the guy in flannel with the trees behind him, and it says Bounty underneath. Only hers is Joe Biden, and it says Biden, and the tagline for brawny paper towels is the quicker picker upper, and hers says the quicker effer upper. I didn't throw the bomb, but you know what I mean. And I saw it, and you know, love him or hate him, if that was Trump's tagline, I would still laugh my butt off, because that's just genius. That's great capitalism right there.
Great capitalism on her part, for sure. She definitely probably made a buck, and she's going to continue to make a buck.
She's going to print a few T-shirts.
Yeah, for sure. She's going to make some money. That pretty much wraps up the questions. We didn't get to the bonus questions this time. We'll get them into the next time, but keep asking questions. We'll keep doing polls where we get closer to the Q&A episode. We'll, do our Instagram poll and ask you on Barn Talking YouTube channel. Barn Talk YouTube channel. This will do Farm YouTube channel. We'll get to your questions, so just keep asking them. I thought these are really good questions, really in-depth. These are the kind of questions we want. We want to be able to go really in-depth. We might have went a little, maybe too in-depth on this one.
Hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, we think we probably did a little bit longer than we thought, but these were some really important topics that we could discuss a lot about. So just keep asking questions. Again, if you guys got any value, send it out to your friends, coworkers, family, whoever, If you got anything.
Share this episode, send the link to whoever, and we'll
rate us. Rate us on iTunes, rate us on Spotify. Give us a review. Let us know what we can improve on. Let us know what you like about the show.
What you'd like to see more of.
It just promotes the show out further for more people to discover us, and hopefully we can give them some value. So that's all we ask from you guys. Without further ado, we'll see you back here next Friday, and hope you guys have a great rest of your week. So take care.
Thanks for watching and listening.